In this class, we are going to talk about Sarvastivada and that is Shunyavada, and then we go to the dependent origination. With these three aspects, we are going to close the chapter on Buddhism. So Buddhism, what we have already seen about, how it came about, what was the main thought in Buddhism, especially the one aspect which made him to spend his whole life was, that is to find an answer to the question, why there is suffering in the world. And then he began to search, spent 30 long years in that search, and finally he got enlightenment and he came to know the real reasons for man's suffering in the world. And he came out with the Four Noble Truths and the Ashtanga Marga in order to make a cessation of the main or the root cause of this suffering or the trouble which man is going through, that is the desire. So desire is going to be the very cause of our suffering. That's what he has found. And why we desire? Is there any way to get out of this circle of desires? And what are those? Then we have seen also the course of time how Buddhism developed or got itself divided into two major sects. That is Mahayana school of Buddhism and Hinayana school of Buddhism. And these two names are depict or show us that it is Mahayana is the greater vehicle or with more flexibility than that of the Hinayana school of thought, which is about the stricter interpretation of Buddha and his teaching. And therefore it is called the smaller vehicle, which do not admit many people or not very much flexible, and adaptability is not there as that of the Mahayana Buddhism. Now there are certain, then we spoke about the two ends or end goal of the two schools of thought, the Mahayana school of thought and the Hinayana school of thought. For the Hinayana school of thought, it is the arhathood, persons who are going to be liberated, that is the arhathood. And whereas that of the Mahayana school of Buddhism, it is that of the Bodhisattva ideal or Buddhahood. So two aspects here at the school of thought basing on the end goal, the purpose of their thought, or what are they standing for, the two schools of thought. There are so many things common to both of the schools because they are the bifurcations from the Buddhism, the main thought. So one is the Theravada school or the Hinayana school of thought. They are holding on to that. They are more original. They are more in terms of what Buddha really taught, or more concerned with the teachings of Gautama Buddha in its originality. Whereas Mahayana school of Buddhism, they were able to adapt to the situations in which land they came to be or get established there. So the customs or traditions, the practices also got much adopted by Buddhism in those lands. And that was the type of the Mahayana school of Buddhism. And thus both the schools were going or growing, and we can see that more people were adhering or coming into Mahayana school of Buddhism than that of the Hinayana or the Theravada tradition of Buddhism. Now there are two things more to be explained here in Buddhism. That is, one is Sarvastivada, which tells all is real. Also called Vaibhashika school of thought, a school of early Buddhism, that is the Sarvastivada. A fundamental concept in Buddhism, Buddhist metaphysics, is the assumption of the existence of dharmas, cosmic factors and events that combine momentarily under the influence of a person's past deeds and form a person's life flux, which he considers his personality and career. Differences arose among the various early Buddhist schools concerning the ontological reality of these dharmas. While all Buddhists, the Sarvastivadins, consider everything empirical to be impermanent, they maintain that the dharma factors are eternally existing realities. The dharmas are thought to function momentarily, producing the empirical phenomena of the world, which is illusory, but to exist outside the empirical world. In contrast, the Sautranikas, those for whom sutras or the scriptures are authoritative, maintained that the dharma factors are not eternal but momentary, and the only actually existing dharmas are the ones presently functioning. So there are two schools of thought here, the Sarvastivadins and Sautranika school of thought. Sarvastivadin, they hold that the assumption of the existence of dharmas, the cosmic factors and events that combine momentarily under the influence of a person's past deeds to form a person's flux, which he considers his personality and career. What we have seen, as a person lives now, the sum total of his past karmas. So that's what is being present in him in the present life. While for all the Buddhists, the Sarvastivadins consider everything empirical to be impermanent. That is the main theory of Buddhism, is that the real nature of the phenomena is impermanency and insubstantial. The phenomenal world which we experience, they are not the permanent source of happiness for us, and to which we attach ourselves, and then we keep or going to be very sad or sorrowful because we are not able to attain all of that. So it is said that anything or the phenomenal world as it appears to you, the wealth, the power, position, sexual enjoyment, all eating, a lot of eating, that's not going to give you the permanent joy. So it's all kshanika and momentary. And like that, that is the visualization of the Buddhist or the Buddha's thought, is that the phenomenal world as it appears to you, they are impermanent and insubstantial. And the true nature of that is the transient, the always moving, temporary or kshanika, momentariness of those things. So they are always changing or always insubstantial, and they are not stable, not permanent. So impermanency is the main characteristics of the external world or the phenomenal world which we experience. So for them, that is the primary thought, the impermanency of the phenomenal world. So, but there is one problem here, that's about the Sarvastivada, that is, everything is real, especially in the case of the dharma. And while all Buddhists like the Sarvastivadins consider everything empirical to be impermanent, they maintain that the dharma factors are eternally existing realities. So here comes a little bit of the problem of understanding. If dharmas are said to be not part of the phenomenal world, they are something extra phenomenal. The dharmas are thought to function momentarily, producing the empirical phenomena of the world which is illusory but to exist outside the empirical world. So that is the position of the Sarvastivadins. The dharmas are said to be falling not in the category of the phenomenal world, but they are something eternal. But momentarily they function with or in collaboration with the factors or the cosmic factors, the momentarily under the influence of a person's past deeds. So they are functioning that also only momentarily. But their existence, that is of the dharma's existence, they are eternal. That's a position held by the Sarvastivadins, which the Sautranika school of thought tells no, that they are that is also the dharmas are momentary only. For them, what is the reality is only the scripture, Sautranika, for whom sutras or the scriptures are the only authoritative. Maintained that the dharma factors are not eternal but momentary. And the only actually existing dharmas are those which are presently functioning. So that is the position of the Sautranika school of thought. The Sarvastivada school is also known as Vaibhashika school, Vaibhashika, because of the 2nd century commentary on Mahavibhasha, the great elucidation. This text itself was commented upon by the important 4th and 5th century Buddhist thinker Vasubandhu in his Abhidharma Kosha prior to his conversion to Mahayana's tradition of Buddhism. Thus, elements of the Sarvastivada school came to influence the Mahayana thought. The Theravada Buddhism, as we have already said, one of the 2 great schools of Buddhist doctrine, that is Theravada means the more orthodox in its thought, emphasizing personal salvation through your own efforts, a conservative form of Buddhism that adheres to Pali scriptures and the non-theistic ideal of self-purification to nirvana. The dominant religion of Sri Lanka, that's Ceylon, and Myanmar, Burma, and Thailand, and Laos, and Cambodia. So Theravada Buddhist school of thought is one of the great 2 schools of Buddhist doctrine, Theravada Buddhism, emphasizing personal salvation through your own effort. A conservative form of Buddhism that adheres to Pali scriptures and the non-theistic ideal of self-purification to nirvana. So both Theravada school as well as that of Mahayana school, they do propose, that is of the nirvana, the karma and all that, they do accept, but there is slight difference in the school of thought. Theravada Buddhism, the teaching of Buddha that life is permeated with suffering caused by desire. That suffering ceases when desire ceases, and that enlightenment obtained through right contact and wisdom and meditation releases one from desire and suffering and rebirth. Hinayana Buddhism, or the different name that is given to Theravada Buddhism, is an offensive name for the early conservative Theravada Buddhism. It died out in India but survived in Sri Lanka and was taken to other regions in southwestern Asia. Hinayana means Sarvastivada and Theravada. Sarvastivada, Vaibhashika and Sautranika school of thought. So this is only an explanation on the 2 school of thought. That one is the Theravada school of thought, or we can say the Hinayana school of thought. Mahayana, on the other hand, considers all physical forms to be void of intrinsic self, a teaching called Shunyata, which means emptiness. The ideal in Mahayana is to enable all beings to enlighten together not only out of sense of compassion, not only out of a sense of compassion, but because we are not really separate autonomous being. That is the stand of Mahayana school of thought. So in the Hinayana school of thought or Theravada school of thought, or we can say that is Theravada Buddhism, what is more insisted is the personal effort, the sanctification. Whereas in the Mahayana school of thought, the ideal in Mahayana is to enable all beings to be enlightened together, not only out of a sense of compassion, but because we are not really separate autonomous being. And therefore the ideal of Bodhisattva comes in Mahayana school of Buddhism. Bodhisattva means those, they are already arhats, they are same stage as what we have in the Theravada Buddhism, but instead of striving for their personal, that is nirvana, they would prefer to remain back and teach all the other beings to reach the enlightenment or lead them to the path of enlightenment. And that seems to be the difference between the two, the Bodhisattva ideal and Arhathood. So because of this and why the Mahayana school of Buddhism tells that we are not totally independent, but we are dependent, and we are not autonomous being, not really separate, but we are all interdependent. From here we go to the theory or the topic of the Shunya, the Shunyavada. That is in the Mahayana school of thought, we come on that. What is Shunyavada? According to the Mahayana teaching of Shunyavada, beings and things have no intrinsic existence in themselves. Beings and things have no intrinsic existence in themselves. All phenomena come into being because of conditions created by other phenomena. Thus, they have no existence of their own and are empty of permanent self. There is neither reality nor not reality, only relativity according to the theory of the Shunyavada. So Shunyavada is there is no intrinsic existence in things and beings. In the beings and things, they have no intrinsic existence in themselves. So all come into existence, it is a temporary existence. All phenomena come into being because of conditions created by the other phenomena. Thus, they have no existence of their own and are empty of a permanent self. That is what the main argument of Buddhism, anatta. That means there is no self, no permanent self continuing its continual abiding in the body. It is not there, according to the view of Buddhism. This emptiness is not nihilistic. All phenomena are void of self-essence, but it is incorrect to say that phenomena exist or don't exist. Form and appearance create the world of myriad things, but the myriad things have identity only in relation to each other. Beyond identity, Shunyata is an absolute reality, that is, all things and beings unmanifested. So that is what is the understanding of Shunyata. Form and appearance, what we see, the whole phenomenal world which we see, it is the form and appearance. Create a world of myriad of things. So many things are there. But the myriad of things have identity only in relation to each other. Beyond this identity, beyond this relationship, the Shunyata is the absolute reality, that is, all things and beings unmanifested. So that is the Shunyavada. So Shunyata seems to be, it's not nihilistic, but that is the reality according to Buddhism. Can you show the Shunyata? That is emptiness, that is the conceptual. So beyond that, beyond this phenomenal existence which is but a momentary existence, a temporary existence of form and matter, or the form and appearance, what is being shown to us. Beyond that is the shunyata, which is the unmanifested, or that is the shunyata. So shunyata is the only absolute reality, that is all things and beings unmanifested. That is the shunyata. It's not nihilistic, but something very, very positive. What is that nirvana in Buddhism? So two things are here. That is one of the shunyata, and what is the end goal of that is Buddhism, that is nirvana. Nirvana in Sanskrit also. We go to the next, that is nirvana. That's an ideal to be reached, or the final exit from the world. Nirvana, Sanskrit also, nirvana, Pali nibbana, is the earliest and most common term used to describe the goal of Buddhist path. So what is the goal? What's the end goal of Buddhism? Nirvana. The term is ambiguous and has several meanings. The literal meaning is blowing out or quenching. So nirvana for Buddhism means that is the quenching of something or blowing out. The best example that is given about nirvana is that you light a candle, place it before you, you see the flame. Blow it out, where does the flame go? And that they would say, that is the nirvana. So blowing out and from this present world. The literal meaning of nirvana is blowing out or quenching. Within Buddhist tradition, the term has commonly been interpreted as extinction of three fires. So extinguishing three types of fires in human being. So within the Buddhist tradition, the term has commonly been interpreted as extinction of three fires. What are these three fires, or the three poisons? One is passion, called raga, aversion, dvesha, and ignorance, moha or avidya. So three fires, or extinguishing these fires, are said to be the nirvana, or in another way it's the blowing out, is the interpretation that is given. So within Buddhist tradition, the term has commonly been interpreted as extinction of three fires. One is the three fires or the poisons: passion, that is raga, aversion, dvesha, and ignorance, moha or avidya. When these fires are extinguished, released from the circle of rebirth, that is samsara, is attained. So what is samsara? Samsara is the continual circle of birth, life, death, birth, life, death. It goes on and on in cyclic form. And the moment you are alive, then you are going to perform some action. Action will produce karma. Karma is the product, that means the action, the fruit of your action, either good or bad. The fruits are. So if what you collect is more of the bad fruits, the accumulation of karma, then it requires many more births and rebirths to extinguish all the bad karmas and only the positive karmas, which will take you to a better life in the next life. So that's till all the karmas, good and bad, they are extinguished, only then the release is going to come. So when are you going to release yourself? When you are able to extinguish these three fires or the poisons: raga, that is, or the passion, aversion, and ignorance. So these three things are the ones which seems to accumulate all the karmas or the karmic effects on you. And only by extinguishing, that means when you are going to put a full stop to your desire, your ignorance, then you are going to really release yourself, a final blowing out. So it depends, or the interpretation is that when you are able to really extinguish these three fires or passions of the poisons like passion, then aversion and ignorance, then you are going to release yourself. That means release from the cycle of rebirth, that is samsara. In time, with the development of Buddhist doctrine, other interpretations were given, such as the absence of the weaving or vana of activity of mind, the elimination of desire, and escape from the woods, that is the five skandhas or aggregates. So different interpretations are given, that is for the what is this nirvana, that is stopping, such as absence of the weaving, that activity of the mind, or elimination of desire. As Buddha said, there is a possibility, or there is a way you can put a full stop to all the desires. Why you desire? Because you are ignorant. You are ignorant of what? You are ignorant of the true nature of the phenomenal world. And the true nature of the phenomenal world is insubstantiality and impermanence. These are the two words he uses for the reality of the nature of the phenomenal world which you see. Because they are insubstantial and impermanent. But that aspect most of us are not really grasping, and we are going after. Or human life becomes a bundle of desires, a chase after so many desires. And therefore you get deeper and deeper into the accumulation of karma or the karmic principles, aspects or the fruits of your action, and then you keep on that samsara. The cyclic way of birth, life, death goes continuously till you are able to. So how many lives? Nobody knows how many. It goes on and on till you are able to put a full stop to all that, the desires of yours or the avidya. So Buddhist tradition distinguishes between nirvana in this lifetime and nirvana after death. In nirvana, in this lifetime, physical life continues, but with a state of mind that is free from negative mental states, peaceful, happy, and non-reactive. With nirvana after life or after death, that is paranirvana, the last remains of the physical life vanish and no further rebirth take place. That is nirvana after death. Paranirvana, the last remains of the physical life vanishes and no further rebirth takes place. That is going to be the two types of nirvana. Nirvana in this life, physical life continues, but with a state of mind free from negative mental states, peaceful, happy, and non-reactive. So those are the qualities of a person who has achieved nirvana in this life. And nirvana after life or after death, that is paranirvana, that is the last remains of the physical life vanishes and no further rebirth. So final extinction. Nirvana is the highest aim of the Theravada tradition. In Mahayana tradition, the highest goal is Buddhahood. So the highest goal in the Theravada school of Buddhism, or that is of the Hinayana school of Buddhism, the tradition is that of Theravada tradition. This is the Nirvana is the highest ideal. Whereas the highest goal is Buddhahood in Mahayana Buddhism, in which there is no abiding in Nirvana, but a Buddha re-enters the world to work for the salvation of all sentient beings. So there is no remaining in nirvana. In Mahayana school of Buddhism, Buddha re-enters into the scene to work for the other people, that is to liberate them. What is rebirth then? That's the question going to be. Very basically, when the effects of karma continue across lifetime, it causes rebirth. But in light of the doctrine of no self, what exactly is reborn? So that is the question. For Buddhism, there is no self, no eternal self. So there is nothing which is permanent in the phenomenal world. So all is but a temporary existence because of the fusion of so many other phenomena. So what is rebirth then? Very basically, when the effects of karma continues across lifetime, it causes rebirth, so another life. But in the light of the doctrine of no self, what exactly is reborn then? The classical Hindu understanding of reincarnation is that a soul or Atman is reborn many times. But the Buddha taught the doctrine of anatman or no soul or self. The various schools of Buddhism approach this question in somewhat different way. One way to explain rebirth is to think of all existence as one big ocean. An individual is a phenomenon of existence in the same way a wave is a phenomenon of the ocean. A wave begins, moves across the surface of the water, then dissipates. While it exists, a wave is distinct from the ocean, yet is never separate from the ocean. In the same way, that which is reborn is not the same person, yet is not separate from the same person. So, what is then the reborn? That's a very basic question. The classical Hindu understanding of reincarnation is that a soul or Atman is reborn many times. But Buddha taught the doctrine of anatman or no self. The various schools of Buddhism approach this question in somewhat different ways. One way to explain rebirth is to think of all existence as one big ocean. An individual is a phenomena of existence in the same way a wave, a phenomena of the ocean. So if you have observed the waves in the ocean, you can see the waves which are rising from the sea comes to the shore, then dissipates. So a wave is different from the ocean, but at the same time it is not separate from the ocean. You cannot think of a wave as separate from the ocean. It is existing very much within that. So every time there is a new wave that is coming. So each time it's a different one and then disappears, but it always remaining in the same. Therefore, a wave begins, moves across the surface of the water, then dissipates. An individual is a phenomenon of existence in the same way a wave is a phenomenon of the ocean. Therefore, a wave is distinct from the ocean, yet is never separate from the ocean. So a wave is different or distinct from the ocean, but never totally separate from the ocean. The same way, that which is reborn is not the same person, yet is not separate from the same person. So the whole existence is considered as a huge sea or an ocean of existence, in which the individual is only a phenomena. It's just like the waves, which is distinct from the ocean but remains always within the ocean. It's a distinct, but at the same time we can see it, at the same time it remains in that ocean. So every new existence is another appearance, yet is not separate from the same person. So source remains that. From there, different phenomena. So temporary existence that is coming too. From here, that is means after being clarified certain points with regard to the different schools of thought, especially that of the Mahayana, Hinayana, and the two ideals which they have before them, that is Nirvana, then Shunyavada, and all that. We go to another important teaching of Buddhism, that is dependent origination. So how things come into existence. So for Buddhists, the whole existence is only a kshanika, momentary existence. There is nothing that is permanent. That is the main thought that is running through. So if that be so, then how do you explain the dependent origination? How does things come into existence? How do they go out of existence? Those things which we have seen already, what is nirvana, the understanding of nirvana, and then shunyavada, which is not nihilistic, but there is something very positive. The same way, what is the nirvana? It is a final blowing out or cessation of the three fires of passion, then aversion, and ignorance. When you are able to put a full stop to these three, then you have set to release yourself from the continuous birth and death, that is the circle of samsara. So the law of dependent origination. What do we understand? What is this law of dependent origination? Praditthi samutpada, that is the Sanskrit word used for the dependent origination. What is the law of dependent origination? The law of dependent origination is one of the important laws of the universe discovered by Sakya Muni Buddha through enlightenment. It simply states that, the theory states this: it is produced, therefore the other is produced. So showing that the dependency of one on the other. It is produced, therefore the other is produced. It is extinguished, therefore the other is extinguished. It exists, therefore the other exists. It does not exist, therefore the other does not exist. So only showing that how things are interconnected, interdependent, and there is no single phenomena which is independent. So Shaw is telling that there is nothing that is permanent. Everything is of a dependent origination or kshanika or momentary existence only for the things and beings. It is an elaboration on the principle of cause and effect, highlighting the concept of interdependency of existence and also the duality or the non-duality. It looks simple, but in fact it is very deep and profound, especially when it is applied to our daily life. Basically, we can understand the law of dependent origination in three ways. So what the law of dependent origination is telling that it is that showing that interdependence of things. So for example, it is produced, therefore the other is produced. It is extinguished, therefore the other is extinguished. It exists, therefore the other exists. It does not exist, therefore the other does not exist. The correlation between the cause and effect. So the theory is simply we can say this is the theory of cause and effect. Three ways we can understand the dependent origination. First one, related to the cause and effect, then related to interdependency, and then related to profundency. First, we will take the aspect of dependent origination related to cause and effect. One reaps what one sows. It's very simple and is agreed upon and accepted by most of the people. As you sow, so you reap. If you sow good seeds, then you reap good harvest. If you sow bad seeds, so the effect or the return is bad. So depending upon your action, that is going to be the merit is, or the fruit is going to be accordingly. One reaps what one sows. It's very simple and agreed upon and accepted by most people. Every effect has a cause. However, if we talk about the cause and effect without considering the condition, we are a fatalist. Buddhism rejects that. And an effect can only arise depending on conditions. Cause is primary, while condition is secondary. The first one is the cause and the condition. The primary is the condition is secondary. In other words, a wholesome deed at present can be caused of a good retribution, effect in future. However, a wholesome deed at present can also be a condition for preventing the bad retribution, evil effect due to the evil cause in the past. As bad retribution usually comes in effect under adverse or unwholesome conditions. Even if it really comes, the effect is generally less severe, particularly if we sincerely repent of our evil deed in the past. Moreover, since a cause cannot come in effect without conditions, it is important to note that although one cannot change the cause and effect, one can change the conditions. This is why Buddhism emphasizes to change our fate by changing the condition. The first way to understand the law of dependent origination is by the cause and effect aspect, or the relationship between cause and effect. We have very well said or heard that as one sows, so one reaps. You reap what you sow. So depending on your actions. So it's very simple, agreed by most of the people. Every effect has got a cause. So that is very true. Philosophically, we will say everything that happens should have a cause. So there is no causeless phenomena that is coming into existence or happening. If you have a wound on your knee, definitely there is a cause for that wound to happen. Either you had a fall, or someone hit you, or you are beaten up. So some cause for that. So there is a cause for an effect. An effect can only rise depending on the condition. So there are so many conditions for the effect, not only the cause. So cause is primary and conditions is secondary. In other words, a wholesome deed at present can be the cause of a good retribution, effect in future. However, a wholesome deed at present can also be a condition for preventing bad retribution, evil effect due to the evil cause in the past, as a bad retribution usually comes in effect under the adverse or unwholesome conditions. So we are aware that cause, effect and conditions. So often we cannot change the cause and effect. If the cause is present, there is going to be an effect. But what is possible? You can change the conditions. So that's where Buddhism is talking about, that you are not in a position to have any control over the cause and effect. If the cause is existing, then its effect automatically is there. But the conditions that is under, there is something which you are able to have a control over. Since a cause cannot come in effect without conditions, it is important to note that although one cannot change the cause and effect, one can change the conditions. This is why Buddhism emphasizes to change our fate by changing conditions. If we cultivate the wholesome causes, we have good retribution. Thus, we should have a strong belief and deep understanding of the law and act in accordance with it in order to have a better living with happiness and blessings. So that is the one way of understanding the dependent origination, the cause and effect theory. The second way to understand the law of dependent origination is related to interdependency of the cause and effect, or we can say that is of the how does a phenomena come into existence. Literally, interdependency means one cannot exist without the other. Its existence depends on the other. In other words, it and the other are coexistent. For instance, up and down. So two correlated things, up and down. So one cannot exist without the other. Right and wrong, good and evil, bright and dark, subject and object, you and I, etc. There is no independent existence. Nothing has its own nature of existence. It deduces the non-existence of an independent I. By definition, the existence of an independent I. What could be the definition? That is, one could be independent, 2, permanent, 3, self-sovereign. Buddhism does not reject a convenient designation named I, but rejects the belief in a real, independent, permanent entity. Buddhism also rejects the belief of the creator of the universe, as there is no exception to the law. So for Buddhism, there is no permanent existence as such. So what is there is the correlation. Because of this, the other exists. That's a cause, or the interdependency. And the examples are that is up and down, right and wrong, good and evil, bright and dark, then subject and object. So there is no total independence here. Because the other is present, its opposite is also existing. So nothing has its own nature of existence. It deduces the non-existence of an independent I. So there is nothing totally independent as I, according to Buddhism. By definition, the existence of an independent I, what would be the understanding or the definition of I? That could be, 1 is independent, 2 that is permanent, 3 self-sovereign. So Buddhism does not reject a convenient designation named I, but rejects totally to the belief in a real, independent and permanent entity. So this I is not real, independent and permanent entity. Buddhism also rejects the belief of the creator of the universe, as there is no exception to the law. So that is the interdependency. Because one is present, the other is there. Take away the other, then they are not there. That is the second way of understanding the dependent origination. First one is cause and effect. Second one is the interdependency. Third, related to profundity. This is a very profound way to understand law of dependent origination. It reveals the reality of the nature. Dependent origination is further described to be the momentary interdependent existence. The momentary interdependent existence. That means for all phenomena, their existence are interdependent, dependent upon number of causal factors, and also impermanent, transient, ever-changing and momentary. So these are three ways of understanding the dependent origination, the law of dependent origination. One is cause and effect, second interdependency, third related to profundity. Profundity means the way to understand the law of dependent origination. It reveals the reality of the nature. That is the related to profundity. Dependent origination is further described to be the momentary interdependence of existence. Momentary interdependence of existence. That means all phenomena, their existence are interdependent, dependent upon the other number of causal factors, and also impermanent, that is transient, ever-changing and momentary. And that is the main theory of Buddhism. That is, the whole existence or the phenomenal world as it appears to you, they are momentary, transient and impermanent and insubstantial. That is the theory, and there is no exception to that. So everything that exists, the whole phenomena as it reveals or seen by you, has got a number of causal relationships, and so many conditions are there. So the cause and effect, you have no control over that, but what you have control over is the conditions that are existing, which you can change. Same with interdependency, because one is present, the other is, and that is showing the interdependency of things. So there is no independent I in Buddhism. So when we say that interdependency, the definition of that independent I is that one is that independent, permanent and self-sovereign. This idea is not there in Buddhism, or Buddhism totally rejects anything of that type. So Buddhism also rejects the belief in the creator universe, as there is no exception to the law. So there is no permanent I, or that is anatma, no self, nothing that is abiding, that is continuously traveling or present. So that is the main theory which Buddhism teaches. Then how things come into existence, that is the the law of dependent origination. How do you understand the law of dependent origination? Three ways we can think of. One is the cause and effect. Second, the interdependency. Third, related to profundity. So three ways of understanding. And these are the real aspects which we speak about. The next class we shall go into the 12 links of the dependent origination, or the conditions which are existing, or which you have some type of chance for changing those conditions. So Buddhism teaches about the 12 dependent, or the aspects, the links which are there in the dependent origination. So those will reveal to us how the things are coming into existence, going out of existence.